Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll show you a found footage horror film, Afflicted. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The found footage begins at a party where childhood best friends, David and Cliff, announce their plan to travel around the world. They will film the trip to feature it on their web series called End of the World. In the next footage, David shares that it is his childhood dream to travel around the world, but he never had the chance to accomplish it since he spent most of his years working. Meanwhile, Cliff is a filmmaker who introduces David to filmmaking. Despite his nervousness about their plan to travel around the world, he wants to help David accomplish his childhood dream. Cliff says there are people who think David's decision is courageous. He also says that on the contrary, there are people who think it is a mistake. Apparently, David has a terminal illness called AVM. This means that the veins in his brain are malformed and can tangle any time, which can lead to his death. His family then worries about his safety, since he further puts himself at risk in his plans to travel. But knowing that he can die anytime, David wants to enjoy life to the fullest by traveling around the world. He believes that he must do it now, so in the end, the plan pushes through. On day one of their tour, Cliff and David arrive in Barcelona. There they stay at the hotel, where Cliff prepares the camera they will use to film their trip. According to him, they will be using different camera sets to cover multiple perspectives. The following day, they meet their two friends, who are currently on tour with their band. They will be joining their friends until their final performance in Paris. They then tour Barcelona, and they enjoy every moment there. As they experience new things on their tour, David feels alive more than ever before. On day 7 of their tour, the four arrive in Paris for the final performance of their friend's band. That day, the three plan to find a girl for David to satisfy his overfilled hormones. Night comes, and David tries to search for a girl in the bar while the two friends are performing. At first, David is frustrated as he is not able to find any girl. But after some time, David is lucky after he manages to find a cute girl on the street named Street Girl. She appears interested in having a conversation with him. David tells her that he has AVM. Afterward, David takes her back to his hotel room, where he expects to let go of his hormones into her. As the night goes deeper, Cliff and their friend attempt to enter David's room suddenly to prank him. To their surprise, the room is completely dark. They open the lights and they find David unconscious, but hormones smelly while full of blood in the bed. At the same time, Street Girl is nowhere to be found. The two wake David up and they ask what happened while they treat his wound. He narrates that Street Girl hit him, making him unconscious. Cliff tries to take him to the hospital, but he refuses. After that, their friends go back home and they continue the trip together. They ride the train to Italy and they soon arrive there. They rent a hotel room where David rests for a while to let his wounds get well. On day 10 of their trip, Cliff motivates David to finally go out after resting for a few days. David expresses that he is so hungry, so they go to a restaurant at the seaside. After eating pasta, David violently vomits out of nowhere. Cliff takes David home and lets him rest. He attempts to convince David to go to the hospital. However, David says that he feels fine and he doesn't want to spend time in the hospital. Apparently, he is afraid that the doctor will confine him for a long time. He then wishes to continue the trip despite what happened earlier. The following day, Cliff takes David on a tour with a wine cellar owner. There, the owner shows them the locally produced wine. After that, the owner takes them to the vineyard. As they are taking a look at the vineyard, David suddenly feels irritated by the sunlight. The irritation worsens until he feels that his skin is burning, prompting him to run inside the storage room. There, David screams out of agony as his skin appears to be badly burned. Cliff comes to the rescue and pours water on his burning skin, allowing him to feel relief. That night, Cliff expresses his concern about David's strange condition. He thinks that David is really sick after witnessing the incident earlier. He then reveals his plan to convince David to go home and get checked by the doctor. David refuses to go home since he wants to continue the trip. Out of frustration, David punches the stone wall, causing it to break. This surprises Cliff since the wall is too hard and it requires tremendous force to be broken. After that, Cliff hands over a piece of rock to David, who manages to break it. To further test David's strength, the two go outside, where David breaks a boulder using his bare hands. Then, they go to the alley, where David manages to lift a car. The car alarm gets activated, prompting him to run away. Weirdly enough, David runs too fast. At this point, Cliff and David realize that David has supernatural strength and speed. The two test the limit of David's capability. Cliff drives a motorbike while David is running. Cliff accelerates the motorbike at full speed, but David manages to overrun it. Later, David feels something weird in his eye. He scratches his eyeball, and it slowly falls out of the eye socket. He then gets shocked upon seeing his eyeball fall out. To their surprise, David's eyes regenerate, allowing his eyes to go back to normal. After that, they finally arrive back at the hotel. David feels extremely hungry, so he munches food as much as he can. But in the end, he just vomits the food he has eaten. Cliff reports David's strange condition to his doctor, but the doctor cannot figure out David's condition without checking it. So the doctor suggests bringing David to the hospital to be checked. Soon after, Cliff confronts David and he forces David to visit a doctor. However, David insists that he does not need to go to the hospital since he feels completely fine and strong. He then suggests to Cliff that he will prove it. They then go outside, where David demonstrates his capacity to jump high. David continues jumping around the building, which makes Cliff worry about him. The stubborn David continues climbing the building and jumps down again. But out of nowhere, David collapses and feels weak. This makes him agree to visit the hospital. As they're walking along the street, a car almost hits them. The car driver and passenger walk out of the car and attempt to assault them. David punches the passenger using his supernatural strength, making the passenger fly back. David craves the diabetic blood on his hand, so he licks it off. The next day, Cliff watches the footage from the incident last night. There, he figures out that David licks the blood on his hand. He then confronts David about the situation. They both agree that David might already turn into a vampire. Later, the two then try to speculate how David turned into a blood and diabetics thirsty vampire. David then shows the bite wounds on his shoulders, which he possibly got from Street Girl. This implies that Street Girl's bite causes him to be a vampire. David insists that he really needs blood to satisfy his cravings, but the problem is they don't know where to get blood. The next night, Cliff lets David drink cow's blood to satisfy his cravings, but David ends up vomiting again. David suggests that he might need fresh blood, so the two wander around outside to find a live animal's blood. David sneaks into a farm, and he sucks off the blood from a live pig. To their disappointment, David vomits the pig's blood again, possibly because it's not contaminated by any diabetics. At this point, they realize that David needs human blood, so they go to the hospital, where David attempts to bribe the staff in exchange for blood. But the staff reports David, and the hospital alarm goes off. David and Cliff run their smelly ass away from the hospital. Along the way, David suddenly stops an ambulance in an attempt to steal human blood. But the ambulance crashes, forcing them to run their smelly ass away again. Knowing that the cops are going after them, the two rush back to their hotel room. As Cliff is about to go to sleep, he hears David crawling on the floor. Apparently, David is in really bad condition after not getting any blood. David appears different, and he is growling like a monster. The following day, Cliff is forced to cut his own arm to feed blood to David. But out of nowhere, David jumps out of the hotel window. Cliff follows him until they reach a storage house. There, the monstrous David attacks Cliff and sucks all the blood and hormones out of him. After managing to finally consume blood, David goes back to a normal state. But this time, he feels guilty after realizing he victimizes his own friend. He then shoots himself in the head in an attempt to end his life. On night 21, David appears to be fully healed from the gunshot. He realizes that he cannot kill himself, so he thinks that he needs to find Street Girl to go back to being a normal human. He then reveals his plan to travel back to Paris in order to find her. The following day, David is about to leave when Interpol knocks at his door. Apparently, he is wanted for stealing an ambulance. To escape, David jumps out of the window, exposing himself to the sun. The cops continue pursuing him. They are shooting at him while he is getting burned by the sun. He then runs as fast as he can until he manages to get away. On night 22, David arrives in Paris and he stays in an abandoned basement. He reviews the footage and he sees Street Girl's phone in the hotel where they stayed. He then goes back to the hotel, hoping to recover it. Knowing that Street Girl left his things in the room, he asks the receptionist if they managed to keep them. The hotel still has it, and they give it back to him. Luckily, David finds Street Girl's phone among her possessions. But as he is about to walk out of the hotel, the cops are waiting for him. The cops cornered him, so he jumps into the building. A cop is waiting on the rooftop and tries to arrest him. In response, he pushes the cop away, making the cop almost fall. He tries to grab the cop's arm, but in the end, the cop falls to death. After that, he proceeds to escape from the cops. He hides back in the basement, where he calls every number on Street Girl's phone, hoping someone in the contact will lead him to her. After some time, a certain man agrees to meet him. On night 27, he hides in the building while waiting for the man. Eventually, the man arrives, who appears to be looking for Street Girl. David does not reveal himself and waits for the man to leave. As the man is about to go home, David follows him until they reach the man's apartment. There, he finds the photograph of Street Girl and a saw covered in blood, confirming that the man is connected to her. Out of nowhere, the man attempts to attack him from the back, but he manages to fight back against the man, using his supernatural strength. He then tied the man, who turns out to be Morris, an acquaintance of Street Girl. It turns out Morris is jealous that she turns David over instead of him. David live streams the room. He announces in livestream that Street Girl needs to come to meet him, or he will end up eating Morris and his smell. After some time, elite police forces arrive in the room and try to arrest David. He tries to fight back against the police, but in response, the police open fire at him until he falls unconscious to the floor. After a few moments, David revives into a monstrous vampire, and he instantly attacks the police, catching them off guard. He then ambushes the incoming backup. The remaining police force shoots at him, but he also manages to kill them off. In the end, he violently kills the last policeman in front of Maurice, making him shake his shit out of fear. On night 28, David sets up the camera while waiting for Street Girl's possible arrival. Out of nowhere, Street Girl arrives and instantly attacks David. She warns him never to come near her or Maurice ever again. David tries to fight back against her, but she appears to be more skillful than him. In the end, Street Girl manages to restrain him. He asks her for a cure to stop being a vampire, but she explains that there is no cure. She adds he needs to kill regularly to stay in a normal state, and he has no choice, since he will turn into a monster if he fails to eat for days. She then suggests to him that he can choose who to kill, indicating he can choose to feed on evil people. In the end, she reveals that she chooses him to be a vampire because he is already dying due to his terminal illness. At first, she believes she is compassionate, but now she regrets this decision after seeing him suffer. On night 37, David sends a message to his family. He bids goodbye to his family, since it is no longer safe if he stays with them. At this point, David has already accepted his fate to hunt and kill. He then targets evil people like pedophiles and devours their private parts to death. The movie ends where three naughty teenagers sneak into private property. A vampire suddenly attacks them one after the other. In the end, it is revealed that Cliff is the attacker, who turned into a vampire after being bitten by David. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.